the CEO of Mercer and Cross, had exactly 11 minutes to save a $40 million deal. But a little girl was crying in the middle of a parking garage, and nobody was stopping. Cole Whitman checked his watch for the third time in 30 seconds. 7:49 a.m. The Mercer and Cross quarterly board meeting started at 8 o'clock sharp, and sharp was the only speed the firm's senior partners understood. The parking structure beneath the Hargrove Tower was cold and smelled of exhaust and wet concrete. Cole's Blacktown car had dropped him at the wrong entrance because of a blocked lane on 6th Avenue, and now he was cutting through Level B on foot, his dress shoes echoing against the low ceiling, his briefcase in one hand and his phone pressed to his ear with the other. "I understand, Fitch," Cole said into the phone. His voice was measured, careful. "But if Callaway Group doesn't see our revised margins before 9, we lose the whole northern portfolio. Tell Renata to hold the slide deck until I'm in the room." His executive assistant's voice crackled back through the line. "She's already set up. You have maybe 10 minutes, Mr. Whitman." Cole ended the call and moved faster. That was when he heard it. A small, hiccuping cry, the kind that a child tries very hard to swallow and cannot. He almost kept walking. The logical part of his brain, the part that had been running on 4 hours of sleep and 3 cups of black coffee since 5 in the morning, immediately mapped the situation. Parking garage, morning rush, someone's kid waiting for a parent, probably fine. Security was on every level. Not his problem. Not today. Cole Whitman took 3 more steps. Then he stopped. He stood completely still in the middle of the concrete aisle, his back to the sound, his briefcase hanging from his fingers. A silver SUV idled past him toward the exit. A man in a gray overcoat walked by without glancing in the direction of the crying. A woman in running shoes scrolled her phone, headphones in, completely sealed off from the world around her. The crying did not stop. Cole closed his eyes. He had a $40 million contract in his briefcase. He had a boardroom full of senior partners who had driven in from Philadelphia and Boston specifically to hear him present. He had a rival at his own firm, a younger, hungrier managing director named Preston, who had spent the last 6 months quietly positioning himself to take Cole's seat on the executive committee. Today was not the day to be late. Today was not the day to be anything except exactly where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what he was paid to do. He turned around. She was maybe 5 years old, sitting on the concrete floor behind the rear wheel of a dark blue minivan, her knees pulled to her chest. She was wearing a purple coat with a broken zipper, and one of her shoes had come untied. A plastic backpack shaped like a turtle sat beside her, half its contents spilled across the floor. A lunchbox, a crumpled permission slip, a handful of crayons scattered like small bright pieces of wreckage. She was not screaming. She was doing something worse. She was the kind of crying that happens after a child has already cried for too long and doesn't think anyone is coming. Cole crouched down. "Hey," he said, keeping his voice quiet. "What's your name?" The girl looked up at him with enormous brown eyes and said nothing. "I'm Cole. I work in the building up there." He pointed upward as if the office tower was visible through 4 floors of concrete. "Did you come here with someone?" "My grandma," the girl finally whispered. "She went to get the ticket. She said wait here. She didn't come back." Cole looked up and down the aisle, empty. He looked at the minivan. The engine was off, no hazard lights. He looked at his watch. 7:52. "How long ago did she leave?" The girl shook her head. She didn't know. Time is not something that means much when you are 5 and alone and scared in a parking garage. Cole set his briefcase down on the concrete. He began picking up crayons. He gathered them one by one, the red, the orange, the broken brown, the navy blue, and slid them carefully back into the small mesh pocket of the turtle backpack. He folded the permission slip as neatly as he could and tucked it inside. He zipped the lunchbox and set it back on top of everything else. "What's your name?" he asked again, more gently this time. "Hazel," the girl said. Then, after a pause, "Wait. That's someone else's name, I mean." She stopped and frowned, confused by her own brain in the way that frightened children sometimes are. "Juniper," she said. "Junie." Cole almost smiled. "Okay, Junie, does your grandma have a phone?" "Of course she doesn't." Cole stood up and looked toward the elevator bank at the far end of the level. Then he looked back down at Junie. He made a decision. He picked up his briefcase, held out his other hand and said, "Let's go find the parking attendant. He'll know how to find her." Junie looked at his hand for a long moment. Cole's phone buzzed in his pocket. He did not reach for it. Junie took his hand. They walked together toward the elevator bank, the little girl's untied shoelace ticking against the concrete with every step. Cole stopped, crouched again, and tied it without being asked. It was a simple thing. It took 11 seconds. He knew because he counted them against the clock in his head. They found the parking attendant booth near the ticket machines. A man in his 60s with a name badge that read ERL sat behind the scratched plexiglass. Cole knocked on the glass. "I found this girl alone on level B," Cole said. "She came with her grandmother. Can you announce on the intercom?" Earl looked at Junie, then at Cole, then at Junie again. "Sure thing. What's the grandmother's name, sweetheart?" Junie thought about it very seriously. "Grandma Bev," she said. Earl nodded and reached for his radio. Cole's phone buzzed again. He pulled it out this time. 4 missed calls. 2 from Renata, 1 from Fitch, 1 from a number he recognized as Preston's direct line. He stared at that last one for a moment. Preston never called him directly. Preston didn't need to. The fact that he had meant one thing. The board was seated, the clock was running, and someone was already starting to fill the silence that Cole should have been filling. Earl's voice echoed through the intercom overhead, traveling across all 5 levels of the parking structure. "Attention shoppers and visitors. We have a found child at the main attendant booth near the elevators on level A. If you are looking for a child named Juniper, please come to the main booth immediately. Thank you." Junie looked up at Cole. "Do you have to go?" Cole looked at her. Her coat zipper was still broken. There was a faint red mark on her knee from where she had been pressing it against the cold concrete for God knows how long. "I'm going to stay until your grandma comes," he said. He said it before he thought it through. He said it the way people say things that are true before their rational mind can talk them out of it. Junie nodded, apparently satisfied. She sat down on the small bench beside the attendant booth and began rearranging the crayons in her backpack by color. Cole stood beside her, briefcase in hand, watching the elevator doors. His phone buzzed a 5th time. He turned it face down. The elevator opened at 8:04. A woman stepped out, maybe 70, short silver hair, wearing a green cardigan despite the cold, holding a parking ticket stub and looking like she was about 3 seconds away from complete collapse. She saw Junie, made a sound that wasn't quite a word, and crossed the space between them in about 4 strides. "Juniper May," the woman said, wrapping both arms around the girl. "I have been looking everywhere. I got turned around at the machine and then the elevator." "I was with the man," Junie said, pointing at Cole. The woman looked up. Her eyes were sharp and steady, the kind of eyes that had seen a great deal of the world and were not easily startled. She held Cole's gaze for a moment. "Beverly Crane," she said. "Cole Whitman." "Thank you, Mr. Whitman." The way she said it, quiet and direct, without any of the performative gratitude people sometimes use when they are embarrassed, made him believe she meant every syllable. "I don't want to imagine what." She stopped. Started again. "Thank you." "She's a brave kid," Cole said. He turned toward the elevator. He pressed the button for the lobby. He stepped inside. The doors slid closed, and the lobby number lit up, and Cole Whitman looked at his own reflection in the stainless steel doors, and understood, with cold, clear certainty, that he was now 21 minutes late to the most important meeting of the 3rd quarter. He walked through the Hargrove Tower lobby at a controlled pace because running in the lobby was something he refused to do no matter the circumstances. The atrium was 60 feet of glass and pale stone, the kind of space designed to communicate permanence and money. Cole's reflection moved through the polished floor beside him like a ghost of himself. He passed the security desk, passed the coffee cart, pressed the button for the 43rd floor, and stood in the elevator with his jaw tight, and his mind already composing the exact sentences he would say when he walked through the door. The 43rd floor conference suite was a long room with floor-to-ceiling windows on the north wall, and a mahogany table that seated 20. When Cole pushed open the door, all 14 heads turned. Preston Lee was standing at the front of the room, Cole's slide deck on the screen behind him. Cole set his briefcase on the table. He did not apologize. He did not explain. He said, "Thank you, Preston," and held out his hand for the remote. Preston smiled. It was the kind of smile that said, "Too late. We've covered the northern portfolio projections," Preston said, gesturing toward the screen. "I was just bringing the board up to speed." Cole looked at the slide. It was his data. His analysis. 3 weeks of work that Preston had just absorbed and was presenting as fluently as if he had built it himself. "I'll take it from the Callaway Group margin analysis," Cole said, keeping his voice level. "We've covered that as well," Preston said pleasantly. The room was quiet. Gerald Forsyth, the firm's senior managing partner, sat at the head of the table with his hands folded and his expression as readable as a closed door. Beside him sat a woman Cole did not recognize, late 70s, silver hair, green cardigan. Cole went still. Beverly Crane sat at the senior table of Mercer and Cross, with the quiet authority of someone who had occupied important rooms for a very long time. She looked at Cole with those sharp, steady eyes, and something shifted almost imperceptibly in her expression. Not a smile. A recognition. Perhaps, Gerald, Forsyth said, glancing from Cole to Beverly. Mr. Whitman could walk us through his approach to the Callaway risk assessment. His methodology was the foundation of this proposal, after all. Preston's smile tightened. Cole pulled out the chair at the far end of the table, set his briefcase down, and opened it. He took out the margin analysis, 12 pages, hand annotated at 4 in the morning, and slid it across the table toward Gerald. I'll start with the number every board member in this room actually cares about, Cole said. Projected return over 18 months under 3 market conditions. Best case, worst case, and the scenario we haven't talked about yet. He clicked the remote. The slide changed. His slide. His version, not Preston's. That third scenario, Cole continued, is the one that protects this firm if the northern market corrects by spring, and it's the reason Callaway Group will sign. He did not look at Preston. He presented for 22 minutes. He knew the material the way you know something when you built it from scratch in the dark, when there was no one to hand it off to and no shortcut that would hold under pressure. The board asked questions. Cole answered them. Beverly Crane asked 2 questions and listened to both answers, with her hands folded and her gaze unwavering. When it was over, Gerald Forsyth nodded once. We'll take a short recess. People stood and moved toward the coffee service along the east wall. Cole stayed at the table, gathering his papers. He felt a presence beside him and looked up. Beverly Crane, you were late, she said. Yes, Cole said. He did not offer an excuse. She looked at him for a moment. There was a child alone on level B this morning, she said. The attendant's intercom announcement. I heard it at the ticket machine. I had gone the wrong way trying to find the elevator. Her voice did not waver. I was 20 feet away and walking toward the wrong exit when I heard my granddaughter's name. Cole said nothing. I am the silent majority shareholder of Callaway Group, Beverly said. I have been for 19 years. My son runs the day-to-day operations, but no partnership agreement is executed without my signature. Gerald has known this for a long time. She paused. He did not tell you because most people present better when they don't know I'm in the room. Cole held her gaze. I didn't stay with Juniper because of a business reason, Mrs. Crane. I know, Beverly said. That's why I'm telling you. She picked up her coffee cup and walked toward the window, looking out over the city below. Cole stood at the end of the mahogany table in a room that smelled of cold coffee and expensive carpet, and the particular silence that follows a decision not yet announced. Outside the windows, the city was doing what cities do, moving, pressing, pushing forward without pause or apology. The board returned from recess 18 minutes later. Gerald Forsyth sat down, pulled his glasses from his breast pocket, and set a single sheet of paper on the table. Callaway Group has indicated they're prepared to proceed, he said. Pending final terms, they'd like Mercer and Cross to lead the Northern portfolio restructuring. Cole heard Preston exhale sharply across the table. Gerald looked at Cole over his glasses. They've also requested that the lead contact on this engagement be the partner whose name appears on the margin analysis. Preston's pen clicked, once. Then he was quiet. Cole looked at the sheet of paper. $42 million. 18 months. His name at the top. He thought about 11 seconds spent tying a shoelace on a cold concrete floor. He thought about the way Junie had taken his hand without knowing anything about him, except that he had crouched down to pick up her crayons. He thought about Beverly Crane's face when she came around the corner of that elevator bank and saw her granddaughter sitting safely on a bench. He had not made those choices to be seen. That was the thing. He had made them in a parking garage with no witnesses, late and panicked, and fully aware that every minute was costing him something he might not get back. The afternoon was clear and cold. Cole stood at the window of his office on the 43rd floor, a glass of water in his hand, looking down at the street below. From up here, people were small and purposeful, cutting lines across the sidewalks, disappearing into cabs and office doors and subway entrances. You could not see their faces. You could not see what they were carrying. You had no idea which of them had been awake since 3 in the morning, or whose hands were shaking inside their coat pockets. His phone buzzed. Fitch, texting to confirm the Callaway Group paperwork was en routing. Cole put the phone down without responding. His office door opened and Renata, his executive assistant, leaned in. "Preston's assistant just called. He's requesting a meeting with Gerald tomorrow morning." "I know," Cole said. "Do you want me to—" "No," Cole said. "Leave it." Renata looked at him for a moment and then nodded and closed the door. Cole turned back to the window. Down on the street, a delivery driver was unloading boxes from a double-parked truck, and a woman in a red coat was trying to get past, and a taxi had its horn going steady somewhere farther up the block. The city did not stop. It had never stopped, not for a single moment in Cole's 12 years of working in it, and it would not stop for whatever came next. He was not naive. One good morning did not make a man. He had made decisions in the past that he was not proud of, had stepped over things he should have stopped for, had run calculations in boardrooms that treated people as line items and called it efficiency. That was real, and Beverly Crane's signature on a partnership agreement did not erase it. But he also knew what it felt like to stand in a cold parking garage and make a choice that cost him something, and find out afterward that the cost was not what he thought it was. His desk phone rang. The display showed Gerald Forsythe's extension. Cole crossed the room and picked it up. "Gerald." "Cole. Good work this morning." A pause. "I'd like to talk about the executive committee appointment. Are you free at 4? Cole sat down in his chair. "I'm free at 4, he said. He hung up the phone and looked at the window for a moment. Then he opened his laptop and pulled up the margin analysis, the real version, the one he had built, and began making notes for the 18 months ahead. He had a lot of work to do. He had always had a lot of work to do. That had not changed. But somewhere on level B of the Hargrove Tower parking garage, a little girl in a purple coat with a broken zipper had sat down on a cold floor and cried quietly because no one was coming, and one person had turned around. Sometimes that is the whole story. Sometimes that is enough.